Today's lecture is about costuming. It's designed to give you a little bit more vocabulary, to talk about direct designers' processes, and costumes as they relate to the theater. So, we all wear clothes, right? What makes it so different in theater? And here I've got a little picture of what might happen if you are not wearing clothes and our little friend who's giving them clothes. But a costume designer does much, much more than that because they are using clothing, not just clothing really, fabric, and materials to tell the story. So let's look at all the ways in which that happens in the theater. Good. So first of all, what exactly does a good costume do? Because it does much more than just keep a set of trouble for not having clothes on, right? First of all, it's going to establish the style of the production. It will indicate the historical period of a play and the locale in which it occurs. So think back to Fences, right? Not only are those costumes telling us about the 4 levels of those characters, they're also telling us that this is a story that is set in the 60s. It's telling us that it's a piece that is about working class folk, right? And it's even telling us a little bit about the locale of which that is based on what season it is in the play and what they're talking about. Good. It indicates the nature of individual characters or groups in a play. So it can actually differentiate. You'll often see plays where one family kind of has a colored theme and another family has a different theme, or opposing groups might have different themes. And we saw a little bit of that in Macbeth as well. It will show relationships among characters, separating major character from minor characters, contrasting one group from another. And we'll take a look at an image that will illustrate that, I think, in a little bit here. Sometimes it will convey ideas about status. Who's more important than the other person, right? So that is also that second level of characterization. We talk about the biological level of characterization, social or societal level of characterization, and that's a little bit about status, right? It will also meet the needs of performers. Remember our Stratford video and we saw that squeaky shoe? So that's a thing that has to happen to tell the story. It might be, I'm thinking about, I just saw a video of a Broadway performance or a Disney Broadway performance of Frozen, right? And she turns and she transforms into a whole different character. So that's got to happen. Sometimes it just has pockets because you got to pull out money. So the costume, probably more than any of the other elements, is really intricately aligned with the actor and what the actor is doing in building the character. Sometimes a costume has to be used for a quick change, right? So it's literally got to come right off, torn off, and something else has got to be able to be put on very quickly. And furthering the vision and the style of the production, right? It's all about what are we trying to accomplish with this show? What is our vision for what this production will give to our audience? Good. So costumes are part of that element of spectacle, right? They're not an element on their own. They are a means of revealing plot, thought, and character. So as you are examining costumes or the costumes in a show, it's more than just them being beautiful. It's what are they telling us? How are they revealing those 3 primary elements? Good. And you're going to hear me talk about those 4 levels of character several times. Biological, social, psychological, and moral. And we're going to look at a very short play today. But even in this short play with very reduced means, you will see some of those elements coming through. Good. So in the same way as a lighting designer uses intensity and movement and direction, a costumer uses line, color, and fabric. So I love this illustration here. We're talking about line. These are very flowy costumes, right? But you can imagine something that's exactly the opposite. Is it close to the body? Does part of the costume contrast with another? Does somebody's line of their costume contrast with that of another player in the show? Color, of course, is very important. It can separate and it can group. And look at how color in this piece and the pattern on this fabric actually creates rhythm, a visual rhythm on the stage. You can see how that would enhance any movement. Look at that, how that would move as the character dances in a show like Hairspray. Really makes it come to life, really helps the performer to come to life. And of course, fabric. Fabric is a basic medium, right? Kind of like, the actual light is for a lighting designer. Is it rough? Is it smooth? Is it silky? Is it thick? Is it thin? Is it detailed? So remember some of that, of what we saw at Stratford, that extremely detailed ornamentation that was happening, or even in Hadestown, how we saw that. Some fabric also has some symbolic value, right? So if you put a character in burlap, doesn't matter how much lace you put interwoven in that burlap, it's burlap. And we have some associations with what burlap is, and where that will put that character in the socioeconomic world of that play. Great. So when you think about it, what does your current costume say about you? I know a lot of us are enjoying being at home. This is my faculty member. They did not have a female faculty member working in pajamas with a top on. But think about how you dress or change your appearance depending on the situation, and what aspects of your persona or your world you want to bring out in what you are wearing, right? We dress for different occasions. We dress for different people. We talk about, dressing for power, dressing for success. So appearance and costume is really something that we actually use in every day as well. So are you some of these, uber chic students here? Clearly none of them are masked, so this is not 2020. Or perhaps you're a little bit more casual. This is what home learning sometimes looks like in our house. Of course, every costume designer's process is going to be a little bit different. And we're going to explore through some videos some individual costumers' processes, how they like to work. But I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that are basic to everything. First of all, they're going to read the play, and they're going to reread the play and reread the play, because there are a lot of cues in there, a lot of clues about what these costumes need to do and who these characters are that are not going to vary by production. So, for instance, if a character comes into a room and another character says, "Take your coat off, let me take that for you," the costume designer knows they have to have a coat, right? If there's a line that says, "Wow, that is a gorgeous red dress," the character has got to have a gorgeous red dress. If there are notes about what season it is, "Oh, I wish I had worn my short sleeves today. This wool coat is a big hassle," we've got to listen to that too. They'll also find things about what a costume has to do. If there are notes that the actor is going to be engaged in stage combat, right? "You hit me, I'm going to take you down," and they proceed to fight. We have to know that in designing the costume. They're going to be researching time period. They're going to be researching characters. They're going to be researching the playwright, all of that kind of work. What would someone in the time that Fences is setting in in Pittsburgh, have worn as a sanitation worker, right? That's important. They're going to be working very, very closely with the director and very closely also with the actors, because what looks like an amazing evening gown on me might look ridiculous on you, and vice versa. So that kind of consultation is going to be happening all the way through. As they design, they're usually going to communicate in something like what we see here. These are renderings. They tell us a little bit about what that costume is eventually going to look like. So here you can see this is a drawing. It's got some, obviously she's not going to have a peacock feather on her costume. She might have some in her hat here, but it's got some ideas about what the inspiration is, what the color palette is, what the shape is, some things that we might not be able to see. They've included some details about texture or what that might be made of. And you've even got some fabric swatches here for each of these characters. So putting them side by side means we also see how they relate to each other, right, in the costuming family. And they tell us it's a visual tool to communicate with actors and with directors and with the people who will eventually build. This is not a pattern. This doesn't tell you this is how to make this dress, right? Or this is how to make these pants, but it does give us all an idea of the world of the play and the style of the play, so we can balance that and make this live together with the set. And the lights, and the props, and the actors, and everything will tell the same story. Costumes will go out to get built, or they will be built in-house. We'll talk a little bit about some other ways that we find costumes sometimes. They'll be fitted, so actors will frequently come in and we usually give our measurements. Actors get measured on the first day of rehearsal, or sometimes even before that, so that they can start building costumes or finding costumes for us, and then we'll come in and we'll have fits where they do some fine tuning. Depending on the costume, you might be fitted 3 times, or you might just be fitted once and they might go, oh, this is great. We'll usually have a costume parade or something like a costume parade where the director will see the actors in the costumes on stage, just standing side by side in different groupings perhaps, and look at each one of those costumes with enough time then that the costume designer can go away and adjust the costumes as needed. And of course, once we're open, there's always maintenance because, you know, buttons pop off and things rip and tear and necklaces fall apart and all of that has to be dealt with. So wardrobe maintenance is another whole career that is done and folks work with. Good. This is another costume rendering, and we may hopefully get time to do a little project in costume rendering, so I wanted to give you an idea of what this looks like. There's some basic format stuff that we have a figure, we have the title of the play. You can see here this is William Ivy Long's design for Hairspray, and he's got the fabric for each character. Now, talking about line, right? Look at the line of this costume, a big, nice, fluffy one, next to the straight edge line here, and how those characters contrast, right? Check out this next to this dress here. Very different in terms of line and shape. Good. So I talked about building costumes, and that frequently happens. We also pull costumes because most theaters are going to have some storage area. We looked at Stratford's wardrobe. That's true of a lot of theaters, so they can pull things that do not have to be built. We can buy, we can rent. So Stratford and some other large theaters, they will actually rent out their costumes. And then there are entire costume warehouses that's their business. They build costumes and they rent them out for particular productions. And then if we can't do those things, if those don't meet the needs of the play and the story that we're trying to tell, we will build them. Folks who are also involved in building costumes include drapers, right, who are measuring how fabric is going to lay and figuring out the patterns for the costuming. Seamsters who are going to be sewing. Milliners making hats. Cobblers making shoes. Remember the squeak and the dog, I think it was dog poop and straw that stuck out the sides of the shoe. Hair, wigs, makeup artists, and mask makers. And in some of our videos, we'll explore just a little bit on the periphery of that. But look how transformational this is. What would these costumes be without masks? Or this one without makeup, right? So all of that works together to create the visual look that is the body of the performer. The costume, hair, makeup of the performer. These are just a few drawings I want to take a look at of some extraordinary costumes. Check out here. We know exactly who is Ma Rainey, right? This is from Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. She's the lady in red with the bright costume. We have other women, other female characters, but not only is the director telling the story by having everybody focus on her and the lighting telling the story, but her costume is clearly revealing who's who in that world, right? We're also getting some ideas about time, space, and social standing of these characters in relation to each other. This woman, even if she weren't singing and everybody weren't staring at her, is a very different character than this woman here. Good. This is from The Lion King, of course. Check out how this costume works in conjunction, with this background that they've created. Right? Just gorgeous. The movement, the flow. Check out this line where the costume itself here almost becomes set, right? And characters revealed symbolically through this mask. Beautiful. Pick this one out. There's Meryl Streep in Mother Courage. That's Brecht. Check out the difference in status here to here, right? Very clear that we're now going to have a problem once we've encountered this soldier. So costume here is telling plot. Costume will also evolve over the course of a play frequently and will tell the story of the character's journey, not just their physical journey. How are they a different person, right? Thinking about Fences and the end of Fences when Rose is, not even the end of Fences, but when she starts to sort of resume a social life outside of the home. And that story is told in how she dresses and cares for her appearance versus the beginning of the play. Troy's story, right? As he descends into alcohol and becomes a little bit unmoored, his dress gets sloppier and sloppier, right? Good. This is waiting for Godot. Check out the status difference here to here. And how are these characters different, right? These guys clearly live in one world. Love this. This is makeup. This is from The Tempest. Again, status. Good. All white, so we are grouped together. This is guest. And I think it should be on a loop. This is clearly they are meant to be together in this very abstract piece, right? So costume doesn't have to be incredibly elaborate. And the piece that you're going to look at today, it's not, but it's still giving you significant details about all 4 levels of the character. So many Pucks. This is Puck from Midsummer Night's Dream. Check out this guy. He looks a little bit threatening even, really. I'm not sure that I would want to meet him in a dark alley, or this one. And this guy just looks so sweet, and it's like a fantasy fairy tale, that one, right? And this acrobatics. So very many different Pucks, very different visions for the same play and the same story. Maybe not the same story, same play, different story, and the costumes are revealing that. Great. And then to end, of course, I couldn't help it. Costume designers are geniuses. So I am looking forward to seeing what you pick up on about costuming in our viewing this week and in our future viewings as revealing character, plot, and theme.